Let's Get Down to Business is presented by Bravo, the marketing arm of Ash Brokerage Corporation, a practice enhancement company. All this week, it's long-term care insurance. And on today's show, our introduction to long-term care. And with me today is nationally recognized long-term care expert, Maria Sarchi. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Maria.
Well, hello, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Well, I got to say, we're in morbidity land now. This is way outside Steve's nine dots. But we've been talking about long-term care for the last 3 years online, and we've had huge success in really bringing this out to not only the public, but we have a lot of advisors who have been kind of like, hey, I don't do long-term care, I don't do disability, I don't do medical. And this is one of the areas of morbidity where people are starting to actually adopt into their practice.
Without a doubt.
When we're looking at this, and we're talking about an introduction, we're looking at some of the ideas that we're trying to convey to our advisors. Mm-hmm. Our advisors want to know, give me the basic brief of what it means to be into extended care.
Well, that's a rather broad question. In my opinion, when we look at extended care, long-term care, the number one driver that it provides truly is dignity and grace at a time when we need it most. So yes, there is absolutely a heightened awareness in our society about care planning needs and extended care. And by far, producers and advisors today are taking a far more serious look at long-term care planning, at extended care planning, because of the very fact that their clients are asking them about it. It is front of mind and top of mind for many individuals as they sit around the family dinner table.
Now, have you seen in your experience from a claims point of view, do you think that there are more people taking assisted living at home versus the traditional, in my mind, traditional nursing home confinement?
Yes. Yes, without a doubt. In-home care, assisted living, far more preferred than being in a facility or in a nursing home. Think about it. You have the comforts of your own surroundings, family and friends that are nearby, the ability to truly live life on your own terms, again at a time when you need it most. And when you're in a facility, that isn't always easily accessible. So yes, in-home and assisted living by far.
I am now looking myself for my last home, my retirement home. I decided one level. I'm already looking at redoing a bathroom. I'm going to do the walk-in bathtub. I'm already prepping for my years, and I've seen a whole new technology that you can operate your entire home from an iPad. So I'm really already starting to think in my own way of how I'm going to design my home to fit my geriatric lifestyle. Now, a lot of people, a lot of boomers, and this is my age group, a lot of baby boomers, we have resisted. We've been so strung out paying our children's education and our parents' long-term care costs. I would think we would have grown up by now and said, okay, I don't want to go through what my parents did. I'm going to go ahead and get long-term care. Have you seen a new trend among boomers? Because that's the next wave on long-term care purchases.
Yes, absolutely. 20 years ago, as I was talking to folks about care planning, we were talking to individuals in their late 60s and 70s. Today, we're talking to folks in their early 50s to early 70s. And so, yes, there has been a shift by far. And the reason for that is because there's been more experience, life experience. You're right. Boomers are taking care of parents, and they also are still taking care of their children, perhaps those in college or living back at home. So there is a sense of, boy, we want to be able to protect ourselves, protect our next generation and the generations thereafter. So yes, they're thinking about home modifications now. They're thinking about the what if. And as folks look at their retirement, they're looking at, where do I want to be? How comfortable do I want to be in my own surroundings?
I'm just wondering, the typical advisor probably starts approaching long-term care right at 50. You get your ARP card in the mail, right? 50 years old, you get your join the club, and you start thinking, wow, I'm getting into the discounts of being an older American. And I'm wondering if I'm being introduced to it at 50, but I thought that the people who are actually purchasing are in their early 60s. Is that a true trend, or am I just reading it wrong?
It is without a doubt my belief that people are looking at it earlier in their 50s and purchasing it at a younger age as well. More and more, as we consult with clients, we're looking at folks that are in their 50s. And that's not something we saw even 10 years ago. But because of the way these policies are structured, because of the way the premiums are contained, truly looking at it at a younger age, especially when it's easier to qualify, just makes more sense.
Well, we're looking at one of the stats you showed me here. Basically, there's impact issues. When I think of the longevity risk that we have in retirement now, where we're all going to be living longer, that has an exponential increase to our need for long-term care, because if we're going to be living longer, the odds are now increased that we're going to have an event.
Yes.
If we have a 70% event now, based on the World War II and Korean veteran statistics on longevity, what's it going to be like when the boomers? I can't imagine. My wife, she's very into diet. She loves to eat right. She's always working out. This gal's going to see mid-90s all day long. And so when I see the baby boom, especially female, they're the ones that are going to really have assisted living or maybe nursing home. I see that now, that trend moving that way.
Yeah, without a doubt. 10,000 retirees every single day, and that's expected to continue for the next 19 years. So think about that. 10,000 retirees every day for the next 19 years. And we know that today, you're right, 70% of Americans are expected to have some kind of care event. What happens when we fast forward 20 years? What happens when we fast forward 30 years? So this dialogue, this exchange of thinking about an extended care event, planning well in advance for it, can only benefit people, can only benefit our society as a whole. When you think about where the costs come from to cover those expenses today, we have to be thinking about what happens 20 or 30 years from now, and the generational impact that will have, because it will absolutely have generational impact on the millennium generation, the Y generation, by far.
I'm looking at some of the basic costs, and we don't have really time to get into the deep, because every state's going to be different.
Sure.
But when I'm looking at part-time help at a cost of $250 a day, that sounds like a lot to me.
$21 an hour, 12 hours a day, it's $250 a day.
That number is just going to get bigger. I mean, healthcare aside, Obamacare aside, I think we're going to have to start looking at these numbers and how can I mitigate those costs in retirement. We're already feeling the pressure of living longer and trying to live off our retirement account. Now we're adding long-term costs and extended care. When we come back from the break, we're going to continue our introduction to long-term care, and we're going to talk about the types of care available and the activities of ADL, daily living. Don't forget to request your long-term care manual from Backroom Technician at our site, www.downtobusiness.as@ashbrokerage.com, and sign up for your 30-day free trial offer for Backroom Technician at brtnow.com/trialsignup.aspx. We'll be right back after the break.
Take a close look at your hard-earned dollar. How do you think your money's doing? Are you keeping an eye on it? Is it protected from taxes, inflation, and market risk? Over time, those Washingtons could become Franklins. With tax-advantaged indexed universal life, from one of the largest distributors of indexed universal life, Ash Brokerage.
Well, welcome back. I'm Steve Savant with Maria Sarchi, and remember, you can watch all our episodes of Let's Get Down to Business, including my weekly consumer show, Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game, right out on ashbrokerage.com. Just go out to our homepage, click on it, it'll send you right out to all our archive shows. And just a heads up, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, as well as your broker-dealer compliance officer. Well, let's get down to business. We're talking about our introduction to long-term care, and we're talking about the activities of daily living. It's so hard for me to believe at my age that I'm going to have to consider not being able to take care of my personal hygiene. It just does not work for me.
It is, and it feels uncomfortable to many. As we sit down and talk with clients about what the potential could be in later years in life, nobody wants to think about needing help to get from bed to chair, or help dressing, or even help eating. And yet, that is the reality of life. The two ADLs, Steve, that we lose first in adulthood are the ones we learn last in childhood, and that's bathing and dressing.
Well, that is disconcerting, I have to say, just thinking about that. Well, let's go through them. Give me the 6, and you just gave me 2 that I'm thinking about bathing. I mean, I walk into the shower every day. I'm going to have issues maybe 20 years from now.
Yeah.
See, that's just so hard to conceive.
You know, it is one of the negatives when you think about this kind of a conversation, but we have to be really clear. It is important that when we talk about extended care and care planning, that we focus on the power behind it, the reason why we do it, the positive aspect of it.
Sure.
Those loss of ADLs, they may be inevitable, but we can control on our own terms where and how we receive assistance for them. And so when you think about not being able to bathe yourself, not something everybody wants to talk about. Preparing meals for yourself, not something everybody wants to talk about. And the reality is it could happen. And so we have to get beyond that uncomfortable aspect of it and realize that today, as we sit across the table from one another, you can help individuals to plan ahead.
Well, I'm looking at these, daily living, like getting dressed in the morning, bathing, transferring. In other words, getting from one point to another point.
Yes.
Whether it's by car, walk, I guess I'm riding, I'm jumping on a commuter bus, whatever. I'm looking at toiletrying, which is also disconcerting, I have to say. And I'm just looking at eating. When I'm looking at all these things, most policies are triggered by how many ADLs, activities of daily living?
2 out of 6.
So if it's just 2, you could be triggering your benefits in your policy.
Correct.
So tell me, if you've seen statistically, what 2 are the 2 that trigger it most of them?
You know, that's a great question, and I don't know that there are any statistics that I've ever seen that have shown which statistics trigger. But if we do know that the ability to take care of ourselves, to prepare meals for ourselves, to feed ourselves, I mean, those are life-sustaining things that we need. And so certainly if our physician says, look, we have determined that you are not able to do these things for yourself, that's enough to start to trigger that whole process to receive some care.
Well, when I'm looking at these events and talking to a client and trying to do it in a graceful way, a diplomatic way, a way that will frame the economic argument,
Yes.
because that's where we're going on this whole
Yeah.
discussion. And for our advisors who have been a little bit shy to even talk about long-term care, much less the 6 activities of daily living. So when we're incorporating this, we really have to think about retirement modeling now and adopt long-term care as not an option, not an alternative, but as part and parcel of our entire retirement model, which I have to say, of the last 15, 20 cases I've seen, didn't have it in it at all.
Yeah. You know, impact comes in 2 waves. First, the financial aspect. Yes, there's a cost behind a care event. We talked about $21 an hour, 12 hours a day. It could be $250 a day. And then there's a whole other element to impact. And to me, it's the one that really costs the most. And that's the emotional impact, the impact to the family, the impact to really live out my life in the way that I choose to see fit. And that is a very big part of what care planning does. If we can help folks to understand that they can make decisions today that will impact them later in life, not only from a financial standpoint, but also from what it means to live life on their own terms, to not have to rely upon family or friends to care for them. When you think about that bathing aspect, the mobility aspect, you think about, you know, dressing. Those are things that should never be taken away. And if they happen to happen, then let's decide on our own terms how we want that care to be given.
Well, it is remarkable that most of our contracts that you see in the long-term care market actually do trigger the benefits with you only need 2 of these. You don't need all
Correct.
6. We're looking at different types of care too. I'm looking at skilled, intermediate, and
Yes.
custodial. Just give me a little bit of each one.
Yes. So skilled care is where you have somebody really at an RN level or a nursing level to provide round-the-clock care. It's, if you think about the most hands-on, the most supervised type of care. Custodial is not as supervised and doesn't necessarily require that it's a skilled nurse or a registered nurse providing care. And then custodial is probably the least of all, where you can have some hands-on assistance, and it's the way most folks actually begin to receive care. You don't normally just go from being totally mobile one day to needing skilled care the next. It doesn't usually happen. It usually happens in grades.
In the custodial care, is this where assisted living is a really big play?
It can be, yes. So with assisted living, sometimes individuals will buy a home or an apartment and move into it while they're fully mobile and on their own. And then as they start to need services, they build that into the care for the individual.
I saw in the last nursing home that I visited, I saw many women in their 90s. And I'm saying many. When I think about human longevity and the risk and having these options, whether it's going to be custodial, intermediate, or skilled, and having these options in front of us and knowing that this is coming and we can prepare for it, to me, that's going to make your golden years the retirement that you really dreamed about. Well, remember, that's all we have for the show today. You can watch all my online news commentary, advisor blogs, and articles on Producers Web, as well as my answers to consumer questions on the Insurance Library. And don't forget, you can view all our past episodes on our on-demand section located at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. So don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or just email me, steve.savant@ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. See you tomorrow.